Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy snowy Friday. Welcome to Higher Moment Mastermind. For those of you who are new to our illustrious group, we are an open Q&A for meaningful job seekers, and we are here to answer any question you have about your job search. My name is Shira Lotzar. I am your host today, and I am an association recruiter. I'm a coaching and branding expert. I write compelling resumes and LinkedIn profiles, help folks with their networking and interviewing. I'm also the co-founder and volunteer of boomerworks.org. We inspire professionals age 50 plus to re-career into self-employment. And I am just delighted to have our wonderful guest experts who are been with us week after week. Julien Bois, who's an executive recruiter in accounting and finance. Corliss Jackson, who is an expert in federal government resumes and all things federal government job search. KiKi L'Italien, who is an expert in videos and social media and especially helping you with your Zoom background. So stay tuned. We want to make sure she's always giving us tips on that. Vern Schellenger, just a master in networking and relationship building, and Weech, who is all things government contracting and HR and recruiting executive. So welcome all. So standard format for today's session, please remain muted. We're going to have a start with our standard 10-minute breakout to identify two things. First, your group's top question. And when you identify a top question, please make sure to wait until you come back to the main room to put your question in chat, because if you do it in your breakout, it won't show up in the main room. And any power lessons, right? Tips you have found for yourself or work for other people that you'd like to share with your group and with the rest of us, because when we come back to the main room, we will be asking you for some of those power lessons. We'll then kick into a group discussion. At 10 o'clock, we're going to offer 15-minute speed networking breakout session. Lots of folks have found this to be super helpful in making great connections. Make sure to keep in touch with our power networking spreadsheet. It's a Google Doc, it's Google spreadsheet, and you can put in your name and contact information to keep in touch with folks on this call. There will be a recording the next day or so on this link of my website. And I also wanted to remind you guys, or for those who didn't hear last time, that today from 10:15 to 10:45, I'm going to be hosting an advanced LinkedIn clinic. Now, for half an hour is not enough time to do obviously a full training. This is really just a sampling. So normally my advanced LinkedIn trainings are a couple of hours when I do them in other settings. Today I am going to keep it more of an open Q&A format. So if you guys can stick around for that last half an hour, bring your LinkedIn questions. I will do my very best to answer them, and we can just, organically see in the future how we want to do that kind of thing. So we're going to start with our 10-minute breakout session, and go ahead and just stick around here. I'm going to put folks into rooms, and you will have 10 minutes to do your power lesson as well as any questions you have. So here we go. Make sure to hit the blue join button. For those who are watching this video, feel free to fast forward 10 minutes to join us in the main room. Hey, Wendy, we're in breakouts. I'll go ahead and assign you to one. Hey, Tammy, I'm going to put you in a breakout as well. We've got a few more minutes in there.
I'm having some Wi-Fi issues. Can you put me back into break room 1 if we still have time?
Yeah, actually you are there. Technically in my box, you're there. So if it's not showing up, tap the bottom of your screen and click on the more button. You should be able to see breakout rooms and then rejoin it. Hi, Ty, we're in breakout rooms for another few minutes. I'll go ahead and put you in one. All right, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully that was some good networking there. So let's open it up with power lessons first. So would anybody like to share with the group any job search tips or tricks that have worked for you in the past or recent past or whenever. We'd love to learn from the collective here. So who'd like to share? All right.
I'll jump in since it's
Great.
so quiet. But I think I've shared this before with the wider group, but I know there's probably some new people. But something that I was sharing with my group before was just like really leveraging your networks on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And finding, connections to people that work in the organizations for which you're applying. And after you apply, seeing if they'll help you, with that, just getting your foot in the door.
Bacon. I ate 2 of them already.
Oh, Corliss, could you mute yourself?
And something to help those connections out, even, to go a step further is and this is something I've just started doing a little bit more recently, is actually drafting out like bullet points or an email that they can send that really highlights the areas that you want that employer to know about. So
yeah, and to follow up on that, Jamie, that's such a great tip, because most people want to help, but they either don't know how or they don't have the time necessarily to go and dig around and kind of figure out how to make that introduction. Who better to talk about your qualifications than you, right? So make it easy for people to do that kind of quick forwarded email. Hey, want to recommend my colleague. Here, see below what she says about her own candidacy. Great tip. Anyone else? All right, so actually, KiKi, I had asked KiKi before we started here if she could make sure that every single time she shares a Zoom video tip. So KiKi, give us a power tip.
All right. So when you are jumping onto a Zoom call, you have a little bit of time beforehand where you can go into preferences and look in the video to see what you look like before you get started. I would highly encourage everyone to take that additional time to do that, and to even go an extra step and to check your lighting before, like 10 minutes before you're supposed to go into that meeting. And the reason why you want to do this is because humans are visual creatures. We can't help ourselves. This is the way that we take so much information in. And so if you first show up into any kind of meeting, any kind of interview, and you're overexposed or underexposed, the goal really in communication is always to try to communicate the best way so that we understand each other and people can read your face. So that we can do this in the best way possible. If there's nothing else as far as visual tips, video tips that you take from this week, just understand that just to take the time to check ahead of time to make sure that you're showing up so that people can read your face, that will do so many great things for you in your communication.
And part of that is being front lit, right, KiKi?
Front lit is the way to go. If you have to be very careful. Some of these offices that we have are gorgeous. And, especially when you're in an office that has like a really pretty window or something like that behind you. But I have to say that when you're getting ready to go on video, those beautiful windows, they could be so gorgeous at any other time. But if people can't read your face and all they can see is the window behind you, then that's taking the focus from you to what's around you. And that's not what you're trying to do. What you're trying to do is connect. So make sure that you are lit so that the lighting is hitting your face and people can read it the best way possible. And if you have windows behind you, try to figure out a way to position yourself so that either you don't have a window behind you or that light is blocked out for the duration of your Zoom call.
And if you can, invest in an external webcam. Most of our
Yes.
webcams make us kind of fuzzy looking. You put an external webcam on top, like a Logitech, helps tremendously. Okay, so thank you, KiKi, for that. All right, so let's jump into open the questions. So and I'm not sure if we have any questions yet in the chat.
Well, we do have one question that's over here, and it says words, what I say versus what you hear. And an example would be retire or nurture.
Yeah.
So, and if the person who wrote this wants to expand on that a little
be
bit.
great. I'd be happy to. Thank you. And I apologize up front to my group if I over monopolize the time. But so when I say, hey, I'm retiring from, but I want something to retire to, my example is my peer group. They may have had a career for 20, 30, 40 years and have transitioned to a second career. And whether they're double dipping, whether they're in a government contractor going from a teaching position to another school district, my concern is when somebody who's 20 or 30 or even 60 or 70 hear that, they think, oh, you're done. You're not interested in growing and developing, doing, which again, has not been my example. The second comment was about the word nurture, and was described by somebody, I've been a director of customer service for multiple years. Oh, Aida just really knows how to nurture her staff, her clients. But sometimes I wonder, especially as a woman, and again, what does that doesn't necessarily describe leadership or strength. And it's like, yeah, I am a nurturer and I don't want to necessarily apologize for that, but that doesn't mean that I can't be a leader as well. So I had some great feedback from my group. If any one of those guys wants to comment.
Well, I'll jump in real quickly on both of those. So yeah, you're right. The word retire can have some unconscious bias attached to it because the whole concept of retirement has been changing as, for example, baby boomers have been recareering into other things. A word you may want to consider is career reinvention. Okay, I'm reinventing my career. And maybe use other kinds of words like reimagining, re-envisioning, re-energizing, that kind of thing, as opposed to retire, because retire kind of the word itself is like a sunset kind of a word, but all those other words are more of a positive, aspirational, I'm trying to do something different. So maybe that's helpful.
Right. And I think Liz, who was part of our group, also sort of, hey, second career, as well, so there is a lot of better framing of the message that I want to send. So
yeah, I've actually heard people say third act.
Okay.
That's another one.
Third act. Another term that can be used is life transition. I'm transitioning from where I am to a new part of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as far as the nurture concept, that talking about unconscious bias, we all probably have heard about this unconscious bias, implicit bias. We all have biases, right? And gender bias is certainly one of them. And there's this concept called a double bind. And it can happen in any sort of diversity element, but in gender in particular, because on the one hand, most people think of leaders as strong. At the same time, most women, a lot of people don't want to ascribe a woman as strong because then they ascribe other words I won't use here publicly, right? Right.
I think I know them.
We know them. Okay. So,
Yep.
So with that, there actually is this double bind, but you told me you want a strong leader. At the same time, you say nurture, but when you, it's a bias. And so I think the more women leaders we have, hopefully the more that will balance out. But yeah, you do need to kind of be thoughtful around some of the words that you use. And if somebody, brings up a word like nurture and you want to kind of have a thoughtful conversation, then do. I think it's fine. It really is. We're all kind of trying to figure out what new leadership looks like here in our modern era. So it's a common challenge. I'll put it that way. You may want to do some research on gender bias and double bind to help you out with that. Okay, KiKi, another question?
Yeah, so this is a follow-up to that. Do we take it a step further? And then I think the question is, what is a star story that shows her approach for her 2.0 career? So I guess if we want to take it a step further, the question is, should we then, further develop that with a story or having examples, I guess?
I would agree. And Aida, oh, sorry. want to jump in?
I would think so. In fact, as I was listening to you speak, I mean, my mind's saying, throughout my career, one of the things I'm most proud of is my ability to develop my staff and have people promoted or whatever you can say there, and then give a specific example of a team or a person you worked with, and the transformation they went through or how they got promoted, or the team you worked with and the project you completed that was very successful due to the teamwork that you led. I mean, you got to put all the specifics there, but I certainly, that's what comes right to my mind.
And of course, people want to know the problems that you're solving,
Yeah.
right, that you want to be solving. So if you can articulate it and frame it that way, like, this is who I want to help. These are the challenges that I have superpowers in solving. Here's how I want to do that. Be aspirational in where you're going, and it helps people to help you, because why are you even sharing it with people if not for their networking ability and to help you in the role that you want? So
Yeah. Well,
So
thank you.
this next question from Jamie is it's fascinating, because through all of this, if we don't get the gig, if we don't get the job, then we're trying to figure out what can we do better? How can we improve? But her question is, how should you go about seeking feedback from employers who have not selected you for employment to assist with future job searches? Oh, what is the answer to this?
I get this question a lot, and I know the other experts on the call probably have as well. And we can't talk about it enough, right? Because it's just the perpetual question. First, we have to walk a mile in the shoes of the employer. Can we just do that for a second? Okay. The reason why most employers do not give feedback is for litigious reasons. Let's just be really straight about it. Okay. If they share why you didn't get the job, it can very well be that the candidate will push back in a way that is more than just emotional. They could actually sue. There's always that opening, and HR people in particular are trying to batten down the hatches when it comes to anything legal, and really make sure that they say only what is appropriate and never say anything that could put them in hot water. Okay, so that is the reason why you don't hear much. I have heard of HR people and hiring managers every once in a while who feel comfortable enough actually giving a little bit of constructive feedback. But here's the thing, even if you get it, you have to really be prepared for the feedback, because I have also heard it happen where that hiring manager or that HR person, it gets a little vulnerable and says, okay, you really want to know? I'm going to share. And then actually the candidate who asked the question meaningfully wasn't prepared for the emotional reaction from themselves, and then actually starts to defend themselves. And that blows up the whole thing. Okay. So some people don't do it not only for litigious reasons, but because they've been burnt, frankly. And so you have to be really careful, even if you're going to ask, how you're going to respond. And if you're going to respond really thoughtfully, thank you for that, and just really receive it. Or if you're going to actually push back and tussle, or more better yet, try to convince the employer to overcome their objections.
Hey,
Sometimes it work, but it can be challenging.
can I jump in real quick? I've asked several times on my interviews, what can I have done to improve myself and all that stuff? And they've been very upfront and straightforward with me. Some people said I didn't have federal experience. Other person said I had too many jobs on there, but it's all been very good feedback, and I've been very good about it. Even though when I had my first interview, I talked about my different jobs, but on the last interview on the fourth stage, he said, "Oh, you had too many jobs." I said, "Okay, fine, no problem." I didn't argue. I just accepted it.
So let me actually reframe my comment here. If you get any feedback, it's normally going to be about things that are objective. Okay, so job history and qualifications, people can talk about that all day long. That's no big deal.
Yeah.
When it's other things, when it has to do with personality fit, culture fit, things like that, that's where people tend to kind of clam up, or how you interview, things like that. But if it's just objective on your resume, most people will say, yeah, you didn't have the right industry experience. That part's easy. Julien, do you want to comment here?
Yeah, so I would say don't ask for feedback, because what you're going to get is exactly that, right? They're never going to tell you the true reason. And I'm just being brutally honest with you guys, but that's the truth. What I would do instead of asking for feedback, is just send a thank you note and say, while I'm disappointed I didn't get this job, I'm so thankful I got to meet you. You have such a great team. I know you're going to do great things. And you would not believe how many times a year later, 6 months later, people will recommend, that person was so gracious in defeat that, I would recommend them to at least give them a look. And I've seen that happen many times this year already.
Yeah, and if you're looking for meaningful feedback, think about going to your colleagues, think about going to friends, doing a mock interview. right? And just have people give you some, that's different kind of honest feedback. Then it's really more of a relational thing. But if it's from an employer, I agree with Julien, be gracious and thank you note. You never know, maybe you were the runner-up candidate and they'll circle back with you. And they can also circle back with you if the candidate didn't, the person they hired didn't work out. It could be 3 months, 4 months later. That happens.
That's one-on-one. You always be gracious, when you don't get the job, but you can always ask, hey, what can I have done to improve myself? And if that's not going to hurt you, but always be gracious.
Just manage your expectations though, that they may not, the likelihood is they will give you meaningful feedback. They might just give you more generic.
Yeah, it never hurts to ask, but
Sure.
as Julien said, don't expect too much.
Right.
You have to take it with a grain of salt. That's all it is. Take it with a grain of salt.
All right. Other questions, KiKi?
So this actually goes right along with the thank you note and the idea about how we follow up. And that is, will you remind us of the rule for following up when you don't hear from an employer after applying? Is it every 3 days, 3 times, and then let it go? And then what about the government? Are the rules different there? What do we do?
I'll try to take this one. Corliss, you can answer the federal one. So first of all, it depends on what you mean by not having heard back, because there are different stages in the process where you might not hear back. You might not hear back really right at the beginning after you submit your resume. You could not hear back after you have the first level interview with the recruiter. You could not hear back after, the second level, which hopefully you are hearing back in all these levels. But if you haven't heard back after submitting your resume, look, it's perfectly fine if you'd like to send a follow-up note a week later to say, hey, just making sure you received it. Okay, because sometimes things do get caught in cyberspace via email, applicant tracking system, that's okay. If you have had a first level with a recruiter, ask the recruiter at the end of the interview, what's your timeline? When should I expect to hear back from you? So ask the question, right? So to manage your own expectations. And if they say, look, we're vetting over the next 2-3 weeks, blah, 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 go to the very end of that, whatever period they just shared with you, then add a few days. Okay, because things take longer than you think. If you still haven't heard, feel free to follow up once, okay? Employers are busy, recruiters are busy. They have tons and tons of candidates that they're dealing with. Here's the thing, that old expression that nobody likes, don't call us, we'll call you. Here's the reality of it, okay? You can follow up as much as you want. I mean, don't be pushy. But at the end of the day, if you are the candidate of choice, they will track you down. They will go send a carrier pigeon to your home. Okay, they will find you. So when people talk about following up, what people are saying is they just want to scratch the itch, close the loop. Am I still under consideration? The reality is, no matter what job you have applied for, assume you are to a point. Almost put it. You have to do that delicate dance emotionally of, yes, I'm still interested, but not invest too much emotionality into it because you don't know what's going on. And at the end of the day, you know what? It could be 3 months later. Something could have happened on their end. They put things on hold. You have no idea because they didn't follow up. And one day you get that call. Guess what? You're our top candidate. Guess what? We want to bring you back in for a final. Like, what? I haven't heard from you in 3 months. You never know. So I would be patient. If you do want to follow up once, maybe twice, fine, but I wouldn't overdo it. And I would just put one egg in your basket and keep on moving on.
There were a lot of comments over in the chat where people were saying, thank you, Julien, for that wonderful tip. And I think, I want to emphasize this idea of putting yourself in the best position possible. I mean, what is going to make that relationship or that connection work out in the best way for you? And I think that's the interesting thing I got from what Julien had to say is, and it goes along with what Shira was just saying, which is, if you are in the position of, going to an interview and hoping that you're going to get that job, imagine that even if it doesn't work out, that relationship could still benefit you. That is a valuable piece of advice and a great way to think about nurturing future relationships and future opportunities, because you never know where that person's going to end up or where you're going to end up and where your paths might cross again.
Yeah.
You never should burn a bridge. That's
Be
obvious.
gracious.
Yeah.
Hey, Corliss.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I just want to make sure that Corliss had an opportunity to do the federal government piece of all of this.
Yeah, it's not much different, Shira. I agree with everything you say. It's really for your own edification, because if they want you, they're going to find you. It really just slows them down if you think about it, because they have to respond to now, more requests for, some kind of response. I would like was stated, send a thank you note and, just put it by the wayside and know that this is your own anxiety. It's not anything related to how fast they're going to move, because they're not going to move faster because
Right.
you contact them.
That's right. Thank you. Well said. That's exactly right. That's right. Right.
All right. So the next question is kind of an open-ended question for all of the experts, really. And that's, what are you seeing right now for hiring trends?
Really depends. Julien, want to take this first in your sector or sectors that you're in?
Yeah, so we've got, I don't know if you guys know, but we have 4 divisions at Justin Bradley. One is executive search, which is the managing partner of executive search. That is booming, and especially, so unfortunately, this is just C-level. But the good news is about the departure of a lot of CEOs and CFOs and COOs next year, which is planned. That means the rest of the pyramid is all going to move up. So I anticipate a wave of hiring in 2021. 2 other divisions that I do not oversee are temporary staffing and lower level recruiting, as well as contingent workforce. And contingent workforce is really Fortune 500 companies, like we help MasterCard, for example, the Discovery Channel, with any type of hiring needs all over the country. That has increased significantly, and especially as of late. So we're seeing a hiring trend. And then finally, the other one that I'm in charge of is financial systems optimization. Is totally exploded to the point where we cannot take on any more work because everybody is optimizing their systems. So in summary, on our end, everything is green.
It's sector by sector. It's profession by profession. And you never know what even if an industry is convulsing, of which a lot are, you never know where there's that, what some call now an essential worker, an essential employee, that they actually need to backfill. So when I get questions around sort of statistically, it's hard, it's hard to talk about, but more importantly, you're only looking for one job, right? You're not a statistic, you're a person, right? And you have very unique skills. And so again, to Jamie's point earlier, network. You never know where there is going to be an opportunity where somebody needs you. And I don't mean just when you've seen a job opening. It's really about showing up before your resume, showing up before the job posting, showing up in a way that speaks to your reputation, where folks are thinking of you, where you're top of mind, so that if they or a colleague has a position that's kind of brewing in their mind, like, or a need, a business challenge, it's like, we really could use somebody who, and all of a sudden they get this referral. Guess what? That could be an instant marriage, no job posting, hidden from the market, and you're the one who's being considered because you've developed such a strong network and you've been leveraging it based on your good reputation. So,
yeah, Shira, Stephanie had asked a question about when she relocated, and now with COVID and she's working from home. She said, my network is preschool and church, and she said, that's all I have. And I said, well, use that. I'm all right. You always network, because somebody at church may know somebody who's in the federal sector, and they can introduce you to that person. And so
I've gotten clients through church contacts.
Yeah.
I had a client who was my aerobics teacher years ago. So you never know, truly.
Yeah. As a job seeker, networking over time can be the most powerful career, the most powerful predictor of your career success. I speak from personal experience. The last 3 jobs I had, I was not looking for a job. Mm-hmm. The jobs came to me through my network. So I just can't. And to Julian's point about the comment going back, when you're networking with people and beginning conversations, we're always looking for 2 things. If Shira and I are having our first conversation, I'm trying to assess Shira's character and her competence. And she's trying to do the same, is this somebody that is showing character and competence? And so the note that Julien suggested, just as a demonstration of your character.
In fact, speaking of which, you know, we have a few more minutes before we get on into our breakout sessions. Vern, is there any, because I know networking and relationship building really is your expertise, and you've been with an organization called Context Count for many years. Is there any other deeper dive tip that you have around networking, especially because we are about to go into our speed networking, and we do that every week, but you know what, why not maximize this, optimize it? Vern, can you give a tip for maybe how when people go back into their speed networking rooms in just a few minutes, that they can really optimize that first encounter with somebody?
Well, again, I think I've said this before to the group. We have 8 competencies that speak to networking. And the first competency is your networker identity. How do you identify, you know, with networking? How do you feel and how do you think about networking? And to me, that's foundational. And the bottom line is networking is about teaching and giving. You've got to teach the other person as much as you can about who you are. And you've got to learn as much as you can about that other person so that you can give back to them. And the giving is probably one of the more difficult things for most people, because learning how to ask good questions to other people to find out who they are, what they're about, what projects they're on, and then listen for the give. And that give may simply be an article you could send them. It might be an introduction. The give might come 3 months later. It might come 6 months later. But as you give back to people, that really begins to fuel the strength of the relationship. So that would be a quick tip there.
Thank you, Vern. And I'm not sure if I've shared this before on this call, but there is a wonderful book, and actually multiple books, and a whole movement called The Go Giver. You just Google that, The Go Giver. Wonderful little book and a great website, and wonderful tips around how to be that person who gives before asking. So
Adam Grant has a great book called Give and Take.
So one last question before we go into breakouts. KiKi, I'm just going to pick this up, and it says, if you have an interview scheduled with the HR or hiring manager, should you send an invitation to connect on LinkedIn before the interview? So speaking of networking, you know, I am normally all about, hey, send connection invitations, reach out to folks. This is the one exception that I make, and experts, please chime in if you think differently. But I believe that when you have scheduled an interview with an HR person or hiring manager, that is the one time where you may want to take a step back and not actually send a connection invitation, only because of the perception or maybe the misperception from that person, because they might be thinking that, oh, if I accept that person's invitation, I'm giving them extra favor, or as if you're trying to kind of forge a relationship more intimately than maybe is warranted until not just after the interview, but after you potentially get hired. It's a very, to me, it's the one time I think in networking where it's a more delicate kind of relationship that you want to be really careful about. I think any other time, if you've not, you know, you're not interviewing for the job, you're just in regular network, I say go for it, you know, go reach out to folks. But when you're in that little delicate dance, I would recommend take a step back until you have really earned the right to link in with it. That's just my opinion. Julien or Vern or Corliss?
I'll go a little one step further. And again, and this is, don't have time to get into the details, but we actually at Context Count break down the different types of conversations you can have with people, all the way from an accident, you know, somebody you sit next to on a plane, to someone who's your ally. And one of the things that we talk about is don't ask for too much too soon in your conversation, and don't ask for too little too late. So, you know, so for instance, asking the HR person to connect is asking for too much too soon, for all of the reasons that Shira just talked about. So, but that's a delicate balance, and it's so individual depending on the conversation you're having and the person you're having and how well you know them.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Any of the other experts want to chime in here on that? Okay, so before we go into our breakout rooms, let me go ahead and, oh, I did want to share. I said that I wanted to end at 10 o'clock today, but I'm going to take liberties here just to add one more minute. So I had mentioned on the call last week that I just started a search, and it's for a membership manager for an association. And I've been a whole week, as you can imagine, of people applying and all of these things. And I was pretty careful. I'm just using this as an example, right, as a hiring person. I was pretty careful in my job announcement to mention what I was looking for from the person in their application. And I specifically said that in their cover letter, I wanted them to describe what I call their strategic membership thinking skills. I also asked for some collateral of collateral that they've had in their membership world. Well, as you can imagine, a lot of people did not give me that. I got a lot of very generic cover letters. A lot of people didn't follow up on the collateral. It kind of made me, ask them for it. And I wanted to share, and I've redacted this, but I wanted to share one cover letter that I actually got yesterday. And again, it's one of those gave me cause for pause. And what you'll see here is that this individual, yes, did acknowledge this membership manager that he's interested in. But what he did was in the last two paragraphs of his cover letter, he talked about things from his background that actually not only have nothing to do with this organization, it's actually giving me cause for pause around whether or not he's really interested in this. And the reason you'll see here, and I know this is very, very small, but in the last in these two middle paragraphs, this person emphasized all their years of experience in this sector that has nothing to do with associations. It's logistics and all of these different things. And I'm sure the person is very proud of what they've done, and I'm sure they've done a lot of wonderful things, but as a recruiter, it's causing me brand confusion. Because I'm thinking to myself, look, this association has not only nothing to do with this, it's a completely different sector, meaning the fact that it's an association, it's a nonprofit. And here this person is emphasizing things that are just in a very different realm. So if I do end up interviewing this person, trust me, I'm going to be asking about that. I'll be like, look, share with me your career motivators. What are you interested in? Because this says to me, it implies to me that this is what this person wants to do. Even though he said in the top, oh yes, I'm interested in this role, but yet there's a mixed message. And so my point here is, please, please, please customize your cover letters. Even though they're only read 2% of the time, I happen to be one of the 2%. I know Julien is another one. We read cover letters, but you take the time, because I'm telling you, there's so many employers who are going to look at something like this and say, really? Why are you emphasizing that part of your background? We want you to address the role, address the challenges you can help us solve. So the more customized you can make it, going through that job announcement, not only reading what they're asking for, but go through the job itself and address point by point how you can help solve those problems. Address from your background how you maybe have helped or how you intend to help in the future. So I just wanted to throw that out there because that is literally hot off the press in my world here. Okay, so just to wrap up before we get into speed networking, wanted to share with you again our contact information. Feel free to take a screenshot of this if you'd like to be in touch with any one of us. Also to remind you guys of some of the local groups, job seeker groups. They're terrific here in the DC area, but of course with COVID, they're mostly online. I of course always like to end with an inspirational quote from the Bible. Yes, my soul find rest in God, my hope comes from him. So please be encouraged with that. And we are going to go into speed networking now. So in these 15 minutes, introduce yourself to your colleagues. Share your tribe, what I call your tribe, your industry, mission, or sector. Share your lane, your profession, your career field, potential leads with one another. Keep in touch, right? Vern has emphasized today the power of networking. It is so important. Give, right? Help other people solve their problems, right? And it'll all come back around. So with that, let's go ahead and get into our networking groups. And as I mentioned, we'll have 15 minutes. When we come back, like I said, stick around if you can for the LinkedIn clinic. Okay, so here we go. Scott, I do have you in a room. I'm not sure if you can see it. Maybe click on your more button. You should be able to see your breakout rooms.
So, yeah, Good. And have you contacted Corliss Jackson also?
No,
Because Corliss is specializes in federal government hiring.
Okay.
So she may be able to help you as well. Oh, Shira, you joined our
I
call.
I decided to pop in.
I was just talking about you and our work on my resume and cover letter.
Your ears must have been burning. We were
Oh,
talking about how great you are.
Oh, bless you. Happy to serve. Happy to serve. Hey, Matt, last week, I'm not sure if you were on the call, but I actually did bring up, because I just jumped in. I'm sure you're talking about your Biden application, right? So yeah, I mentioned it to Corliss on the group call last week, and she goes, "Yeah." She said it's really the same as everything else these days. It's all about who you know. She said it's totally about networking and all of that. And so I asked her, I'm not sure if you and I went through this tip in our coaching, but in fact, we could do this today. If you're going to stick around for the LinkedIn training, please bring it up. Sure. So in the search bar, what I've been recommending to people is to type in the search bar in LinkedIn, anything like Biden transition team or Biden Harris transition or Biden, something like that. Because what'll happen is anybody who's on the transition team who has a LinkedIn profile is going to come up, and you can start networking your way through those people. If there's second level contact, of course, right, find your first level mutual connection. One of the best ways to do it. In fact, what's interesting is that you are one of, I think, like three or four clients, right, that I have, not surprisingly, we're in Northern Virginia, right, like who are applying to Biden. And one person, interestingly, is not proactively applying. He was contacted.
Oh, wow.
He was contacted because of his expertise. Somebody reached out to him. So he just had an interview over the weekend. And we were pairing in a whole different way. And so the point is that, for as many thousands and thousands of applications as they've gotten, they're leveraging their own network, right? They're an employer. I mean, think about it. How does any employer find their people? The first thing that they do is they tap their own network. Who do you know who has these specialized skills? This particular client of mine happens to. He's actually a military guy, and they want to do some sort of joint thing. But the point is that it can't be understated, right? It's not just about the application. It is absolutely about tapping your network. Yeah.
Right.
So I didn't want to interrupt things. I just, thought I'd.
Yeah, I'll get on that. Yeah.
So Ty, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I can go next. Basically, I am looking at rebranding myself or figuring out what my brand is. I've done a number of different jobs throughout my career. Most of it has been in corporate communications. I probably mentioned last time that I was in internal communications at a large insurance company for almost 14 years. Since then, I've transitioned over into benefits, defined benefit plans, and I worked there about 5.5 years for a government contractor. So looking to just redo my LinkedIn profile and combine all that and figure out which way I want to go. I've had some interviews. It's pretty much I'm looking at the job openings and customizing my resume and my cover letter. On my cover letter, I will do a matrix and look at their requirements, and then look at the my qualifications and put them side by side. I don't know if that's a good idea, but I've been doing that. I've had several interviews over time. It's worked somewhat, but I still have to decide, do I want to be a communicator, or do I want to be a benefits person, or do I want to do something in the government because I have a master's in public administration?
Yeah, figuring out your brand is pretty important these days, because people want to know that you can solve their urgent problems and that you're going to stick around for a while to do that. So yeah, not for nothing, what that question that you just posed to yourself, which is it, is actually very important. Once you determine that, creating a very compelling LinkedIn about section that speaks to those urgent challenges you're in a unique position to help solve is critical, because people want to know you're their person. They want to feel comfortable. They want to feel safe, right? They're minimizing their risk and that maximizing output. But then yes, as far as your cover letter, absolutely continue to do that. You've requested, I have, you've requested, I have kind of thing is super helpful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried that T letter before, and I'm still looking after 12 months. I know exactly what you're talking about, but
Look, it's not that it works all the time. It's just that it works a lot better than not doing that. right? Because there are a lot
Oh,
of
I
other
agree.
factors that people are looking for rather than not just the cover letter. Like they're obviously, they have to feel it's a match, not just you. So I'm not sure what your specific situation is, but if you're going to do a cover letter, that is a good way to do it. If you
I've,
have
I've sent the T letter the night before my interview to the sales manager. I'm in outside sales, thinking that might, and it hasn't. After 5 months, I finally had an interview 2 weeks ago. I sent in just a regular email to the sales manager, just simple. Looking forward to our interview tomorrow at 2:30. Please contact me if you need anything more. Thank you, Greg. Interview went well. Sent the electronic thank you email. Sent a handwritten snail mail letter thank you. Did a follow-up with the HR manager Monday and no response. And that was over 2.5 weeks ago. And I understand your point. I mean, sometimes it does take, next week is Christmas, then New Year's. So those that are working are fortunate to have holidays that are paid. I get that. So there isn't going to be anything happening the rest of this year. In my case, being out a whole year, I've exhausted all of my ideas and thoughts in my network. And the only thing I'm really doing now is folks that I do connect with new that offer that standard, well, check my network and see if you don't know anybody, or do you want me to introduce you? And that's been a hit or miss, but I've been reaching out to a few of them and just asking for the synonym AIR, advice, information, referrals, because other than that, I don't know what else I can do.
Have you considered expanding the geographic area you're looking in?
Well, I'm not open to relocation, and I'm not looking for, well, I don't even think there is a need for a lot of travel right now until this COVID thing dies down. But still having children at home, it's more important for me to be here. So I recognize that I am limiting myself to a certain extent.
Well, if I can, from an HR perspective, Greg, if I can just suggest here that there are more and more companies now that are actually considering hiring remote people even post-COVID, because they've realized that there actually is not, I mean, look, it's great to have people in face-to-face. Of course, there's nothing like that. And yet more HR people are like, wait a second, this actually worked. We've had a whole year now of working remotely. And so if you're open to working from home, then
I've done it all my life.
okay, great. So to Madeline's point, expand your geography, because a lot of organizations now are open to a permanent remote solution. Not everybody, but a lot more than you would think. And the HR people are now saying, oh wow, we have now the whole country to look at instead of just our local geography. So it's working both ways. So I appreciate Madeline's suggestion. Highly recommend that. Well, looks like we're gonna.
Perfect timing.
There you go. So guys, stick around for the LinkedIn training if you can. Happy to answer specific questions, how to leverage your network. But again, remember, it's always about showing up before your resume, right? Showing up before the opportunity. So anyway, look forward to seeing you guys in just a minute. Welcome back, everyone. Glad you hopefully you had a good speed networking session there. And by the way, wanted to let you know, speaking of speed networking, there is a 40+ event. I just noticed. I came into my inbox while we were talking on Monday. And oops, I just put this to KiKi. I should have put this to everybody. Hold on a sec. Let me just put this in the chat box here. Okay, so there's the event. It's Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern. It's on speed networking, so perfect timing for those of you who want to check that out. So without further ado, normally I know we spend a few more extra minutes after the networking sessions to kind of chat a little bit more, but for the sake of time, I am going to jump into the LinkedIn training for those of you who can stick around, again, for another half an hour. And so I'm going to start, even though I mentioned that this is going to be an open Q&A, I did recently create a very short PowerPoint deck just to kind of give an overview of all the different ways that you could be leveraging your LinkedIn network. Okay, so I'm just going to share a very quick deck. And then even though normally it would take me another like hour and a half to go through all of it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press pause, and then we're going to go into some open Q&A, and I'll do a live session and we'll answer questions as we go along. All right, so with that, here we go. All right, so I believe that there are really two ways you can land a job, right? You can submit your resume, or you can show up before your resume. And I mentioned that earlier in the conversation. This one works 10 to 20% of the time, and this one works 80 to 90% of the time. And we've already had a conversation today around why that's so important. But LinkedIn is one of the best ways that you can show up before your resume. But how? Well, you can, number one, you can have a searchable brand. And that's not for nothing. I mean, your searchable brand means this is how people find you. Recruiters, 97% of recruiters use LinkedIn when they are searching for people. About 70% use it exclusively. Okay, when I say exclusively, I mean not using job boards, not posting on Indeed, not posting on LinkedIn's job board, not posting on Career Builder, what have you. They're actually proactively going out and searching for people. So having a searchable brand that has the right keywords, that speaks to the urgent problems that you want to solve, that speaks to your tribe, right? The industry, mission, or sector, that speaks to your lane. Having something compelling helps people to find you, okay? And that could be for employers, or that could be for your network. Anybody who's looking for you, have a searchable brand. Number two, right? You can proactively network. And this is something that we keep talking about all the time here in Hire Moment Mastermind, is making sure that you are reaching out. So not just that you're being found, but that you are finding others. What I call it kind of being your own recruiter, right? This is what recruiters do. You can be doing that yourself. And also by getting referred. And again, this is all kind of one big theme here, but making sure that you are in a position to leverage the network that you already have. Some people ask me, oh, well, Gina, should I accept everybody who sends me a LinkedIn invitation? Well, I would say this, that is personal choice, of course. However, remember this, the more first level contacts you have, the more seconds and the more thirds, okay? The more immediate contacts you have, even if you don't know them well, the more you're going to be able to tap that network to expand to your larger network. Meaning, if there is an opportunity that you see, just to Jamie's point earlier today, that you want to get in front of somebody, having more connections means that likely than not, hopefully, you will have a second level contact, meaning that you will have a first level in the middle. Now, if you have a third level, you can't know, LinkedIn will never tell you who's in the middle, but if you have a second level, you can tap your mutual first level to get referred in. And then of course you can build your reputation, and that has to do with thought leadership. That's about blogging. That's about reposting other people's articles. That's really making sure that you are putting yourself out there as whatever type of thought leader you think you are in your space. LinkedIn is a great place to do that. So how do you craft a searchable brand? We'll just talk about that for a second. Showcasing your tribe. We've mentioned this before. Again, industry, mission, or sector. Not everybody has a tribe, but a lot of you do. So for example, several of us on this call, we are from the association tribe. We know all things association. We love associations. We want to, make associations better. But those of us who are in associations may not be in the healthcare sector or the commercial real estate sector or the government contracting sector, but some of you are, or environmental or what have you. And so if there is a tribe of people, right, an industry, mission, or sector that you want to go after and you can focus there, what you're doing is you're creating a comfort level with that group, and you're saying, yes, I get your problems. I want to help you solve your problems, and I'm going to use my LinkedIn brand to tell you about that, and especially in your about section, in your headline, but mostly in your about section. Showcasing your lane. Everybody here has a lane. Even if you don't have a tribe, you have a lane or an aspirational lane. It's something you do. It's something you're an expert in. And again, your profile is a great, great way to show what are the urgent problems that you can uniquely solve within your lane. And then again, this idea of writing a compelling headline and an about section. Those are the two areas more than any other place on your profile where not only can you showcase your keywords, but where you can say something meaningful. Most people don't have no idea how to do this. It happens to be one of the things I do for a living, right? That's why, you know, kind of a Five Guys in that. Like, I'm always thinking about how do you write a compelling LinkedIn profile. And I want to impart that to you to think about that. Really think about it. You don't want to leave your LinkedIn profile to chance. You don't want to just sort of let you know, your background kind of just sort of hang out there. You've got to craft it. You've got to be intentional about it. You take that headline. Don't just put in the job that you used to have. Put in what it is that you're looking to do. And I'm not necessarily saying seeking opportunities in. You don't even have to use that phrase. You can simply say, you know, environmental nonprofit professional, and then have some other keywords that speak to the superpowers that you have, making sure that in your about section that you really write something, again, compelling, who you serve, how you serve, why you serve, all right? And then, you know, just in terms of how and why to network, I'm going to breeze through this and then we're going to jump into the training. Again, finding people in your tribe and lane. You can convene colleagues. It's a great way to do this. You can also be a go-giver, as Vern was talking about before. Finding people in your tribe and lane, you can rekindle relationships, research employers, explore new careers, get referred through that internal champion, prepare for interviews. If you want to be a convener, you can start a Zoom peer roundtable, just like we're doing here. You can do that for people in your tribe, people in your lane. You can be considered the thought leader when you do that. You can give advice, you can make referrals, you can share your thought leadership. I mean, there's so many ways to leverage this platform, okay? So with that, I'm going to jump into LinkedIn here, and we're going to, again, just do a real sort of whirlwind kind of a thing. Now, again, normally I would do a super deep training and we go over everything, but what I want to do is I want to give you the floor. You guys have been using LinkedIn to whatever extent you have been. You've been hearing us talk about this. What I'd really love to do is just open up the mics here, okay? So let people just give you an opportunity to ask your questions. I'll do my very best to answer them, whatever we can, in the next 15 or 20 minutes, and then we'll see where we go from there, okay? So who would like to start with the first question? Just open up your mic.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's very specific, though. It might be too specific for this call, but I have tried to type a post and put someone's name in it,
Yes.
and then like connect it so that it'll show up on their.
Yep.
And I can't get it to work.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure how you're doing it, but I'll show you how to do it. So let's say here you're type, here's your thing, right? And now you want to put in my name, for example, or no, I'll put in KiKi's name because I know that KiKi and I are connected. Type the @ sign. And then
Can you go to the LinkedIn page?
I can't see your screen.
Sorry.
We need the other screen. Yeah, thank you.
So sorry. Okay, so let me, give me 1 second here.
Sometimes you have to exit out and go back in.
Yep, I'm actually gonna do a new screen share here. Sorry, thank you for letting me know that. Okay, here we are. So here I am on LinkedIn, and let me back up. So you all can see this, yes? I started a post on my homepage, and I'm typing blah, 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 right? And now, Madeline, I want to tag KiKi. So I'm gonna take the @ sign, and I'm gonna start KiKi, and she's gonna come up right here.
Right.
That's it. And now she's tagged. Simple as that. Did you use the @ sign before?
Yes, but I think KiKi has to, in her settings, allow people to highlight her name.
To tag her? Well, most people, it's defaulted that way. She'd have to be very intentional to undo that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it should work for just about everybody.
So what will she, so when that post is posted, will her name be in blue letters?
Yes. In
It'll
fact,
go on our timeline too.
Yes, it'll come up on her timeline and she'll get a note in her inbox that she was tagged. So it'll cause her to, LinkedIn will prompt her to look at her timeline.
Okay, so you're creating a post. What about if you are, if someone else posted something and you're liking it or commenting on it? Does this work the same way where in the like or the comment, you can also highlight someone's name? Like,
yeah, so if I wanted to comment here.
Yeah, you do it the same way.
Same thing. Here she is.
Okay, I don't know what I'm doing.
That's okay.
Can I ask you a
Why
quick-
we're here. It's good.
Can I ask you a quick question?
The question is good for other people too. So feel,
Okay.
Why do they do the hashtag? Is that for recruiters or something like that? What does that really do? Does that go on?
Yeah, the whole thing with hashtagging, and in fact, KiKi, are you still on the line?
I understand what it does. I always wonder why people do
yeah,
it.
so there's different reasons to use it. So for example, the thing with hashtagging is that it gives people a place who happen to be searching for that hashtag, a place to find you. And that's what hashtagging is all about anyway, right? So if somebody, so for example, occasionally I've actually posted HMM, right? This call, I've posted it on LinkedIn. Some of you might have seen it. And so what I might do is I go, oh, join us on this coming Friday. And then I'll say hashtag, and see, it already prompts me because it knows who I am. Hashtag job search, right? Or hashtag hiring or whatever. So that if you, as a job seeker, are looking for posts,
Gotcha.
you can type that in and hopefully my thing will come up.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure. All right, other questions?
So how about it? Let's say you write an article or you want to share a post. Now, do you need to do the art if you want to share the post with the group that you belong to?
When you say the group that you belong to, which group are you referring to?
So for instance, on LinkedIn, I have in my industry, I have this many groups that I belong to.
Yes.
So I wonder, when I pen something up and I want to share, I know that when I publish it, it goes to everyone. But I wonder if by saying everyone, does it go to those groups as well, or should
I see. And by the way, and again, just to clarify, you're talking about a LinkedIn group, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I would. My best tip for that is post it, but then also repost it in your group. Like start a new post in your group just to make sure that people in your group see it.
Oh, okay.
Best thing to do double entry.
Oh, double entry. Okay. For an accountant, it makes sense. Double entry. Okay.
Yeah, I spoke your language. You knew. That's pretty funny. And I'm not an accountant at all. It's funny. All right. What other questions do you have?
I'll go. I'm looking at my dashboard. On the right-hand side, search appearances. And you click on it and you look at the industries. And in my case, it's been 3 insurance and 2 financial planning. Now I realize that those idiots will hire anybody that breathes, but I don't have insurance, the word insurance or financial or services or planning anywhere on my LinkedIn profile, let alone resume. So needless to say, it's a little disheartening that those companies are the only one that are looking me up. And is there something that I could
not really
change, do something different?
Yeah, so understand this, you're in sales, right? And so the companies that are looking for you are not necessarily looking for people from your industry. Remember, there is a difference between tribe and lane. Let me just press pause and sit here for a second. What you're talking about is a really classic example of that. You are in the sales lane, not necessarily in the insurance or financial tribe. However, employers in the insurance and financial tribes are often open to salespeople in the sales lane who come from outside their tribe. So regardless of what you put on your profile, if they're open to somebody like you, they're going to come find you. Okay, so it's not about you changing anything necessarily, unless you had a specific tribe that you really wanted to make sure people knew you for. That doesn't mean, that's not going to stop the insurance and financial people from hunting you down, okay? But it might give them a little pause if they do take the time to read your profile, like, oh wait, no, he doesn't even want to be. You're not going to say I don't want insurance and financial, but you be proactive and say I am looking for whatever it is, government contracting, high tech, whatever your background is. If you can be very intentional, it might dissuade them from reaching out. And by the way, Greg, even if they do reach out, there's always a delete button. It's okay, right? I'd rather you get more hits than less, that you have an option to delete.
That's why God created that button, deleting it.
Deletes, it's fine, but get more people. You can always turn them away. All right.
The other thing is, is this a 1099 or is it a straight commission? And then they try to peddle, then they
right. When you're in sales, you're going to get hit by a lot more people than others. You just got to do a lot of weeding. So, all right, other questions?
Yes, another question. I think I had the same issue. I'm glad that you addressed it because I was wondering where these people are coming from. So my question is that how do you reverse engineer the job search? Because I'm very curious as to how would the recruiter find me, so that I know how to reverse engineer what the recruiter would do.
It's a much, John, it's a great question. It's a much, much, much bigger question than what I can answer today. So forgive me for that, but I'm going to give you one of many, many, many tips. And that has to do with actually finding recruiters. Okay, so finding recruiters in your sector. And so most recruiters are open networkers. We will accept just about anybody, because when we go recruit, we want everybody. We want everybody, right? Literally. So most of us will accept your invitations. This is one of many, one of many tips, and that is to just type in the word recruiter here. And then right after the word recruiter, put in whatever your tribe or your lane. So if it's accounting, put in accounting and see who comes up. So what'll happen here is you're going to get a list, and you want to hit the people tab. Okay, so accounting and finance recruiter, recruiter and finance account. See, all these people come up, right? And you can change it. You can say, finance recruiter, whatever the thing is. Just play around. You can't break LinkedIn. You can search whatever you want. But what I can tell you is that most recruiters will have the term recruiter plus whatever the thing is that they specialize in. So if you are in, commercial real estate, go here, right? Here you go. Okay, so these folks, and by the way, you should also know that recruiter is not the only term that is used these days. Some people use the term talent acquisition.
Oh yeah, that's big.
Big one. That's a fancy term. Oops, I misspelled that. And the other thing too with recruiters is that you have to understand that there are different kinds of recruiters. There are corporate recruiters. Corporate recruiters are employed by a company to search for those employees. So Apple, is going to have their own corporate recruiters, or Amazon, or Aon, or whomever, right? That's one thing. That's a corporate recruiter. That is the equivalent of talking to the employer. In fact, you are talking to the employer. But there are other recruiters like myself who are third-party recruiters. Some people call us headhunters, permanent placement, executive search. Some of us do contract search or temporary staffing. We're third party. We are hired by employers to search on their behalf, but we have multiple clients. But we might all have the same terminology. I might call myself a recruiter, and the corporate recruiter calls himself a recruiter. How are you to know? Well, one of the ways you know is you open their profile, and a person like this, see how it says talent acquisition specialist at Omnicom Health Group? Chances are she's a corporate recruiter, because Omnicom Health Group, the way that's phrased, says to me, that's a company. And if I want to double check it, I'd open her up and I would go down to her company, and I would click on the name of the company and see what they do. All right. So they are, right, they're a healthcare marketing communications group. Okay, fine. So that, again, it says to me, this is not a search firm. This is not a headhunting firm. This is an actual employer where she is their recruiter. So that can help you in terms of who's who. As far as connecting with them, again, most of us are open networkers, which means that 97.5% chance, if you try to connect with us, we will accept your invitation. Most of us will, especially if you're in our tribe or if you're in our lane. We want to fill our database. This is most of our databases. We want you in there just in case we need to contact you. So again, that's, I could spend hours talking about all the ways to reverse engineer, Jean, to your question, but this is one way that can easily boost your visibility with recruiters. Okay, so
why do people want to be lions? Lion?
Why do people? Okay, so a lion is a LinkedIn open networker. Why would people want to be a lion? So most of us who are lions, and I am one, most lions are recruiters.
But you don't put that in your, but you don't put that in your label though.
I could. I don't. For me, it's not necessary for me to to promote that because that's not a. I'm not trying to tout that. I just happen to be one. Most lions are salespeople or recruiters, and the reason is we are out there trying to connect with as many people and outreach with as many people as possible. We have a reason to have a very, very, very expanded network. I'm not suggesting that everybody on this call become a lion. It's not necessary for you. However, understand for those of us who are, look, if you're gonna, in fact, there was somebody on this call who might still be on this call right now, who reached out to me earlier this week and said, hey, Shira, you know, I was applying for XYZ job. I noticed that you're connected to Susie Q. You know, do you know her well enough to make an intro? And I said to say to this person, I'm so sorry, I don't. I am an open networker, which means a lot of the people in literally my 30,000 connections I just don't know. And I'm okay with that because I want to be able to tap in my case, candidates who I don't know, to invite them to consider an opportunity, and salespeople do something similar. But understand that if you connect with a lion, do that, absolutely. But understand if you are going to try to tap their connections, they may or may not be able to give you a meaningful referral, and that's okay. Some referrals better than no referral. Obviously, it's better if I know the person, but even if I didn't, and you know, if you need me to still reach out, it's a little warmer than if you were to do it on your own.
So you have 30,000 connections? Wow.
I do. And the reason why is because I actually joined something called opennetworker.com years ago, and it was like $50 a year, and it allowed other lions to connect with me. And and by the way, in case anybody's interested in this, 30,000 is actually the max that you can have on LinkedIn. So I literally I keep having to delete people, usually from other countries who I really wouldn't have any dealings with, to get it under 30,000 so I can keep on connecting. But that's a side point. All right.
So is it? I thought it was 32,000. So it's 30,000 now.
It's 30. It's definitely 30. Yep.
And then when you get that point, you can't send an invite to someone.
Can't send an invite. Yep. I have to delete people in order to send them. All right. So other questions beyond the ones we have talked about so far?
So just on that. So when I get to this level, should I focus on the corporate recruiter then?
It's actually both. No, I wouldn't be discriminate in that. I would go after both, because you never know. The corporate recruiter will have opportunities. The headhunter will have opportunities. In fact, if anything, when you go after headhunters who are search consultants, some people, we have all different nomenclature, who are in your tribe or in your lane, remember, we have exposure to all kinds of opportunities that the corporate recruiter is not going to. So if anything, you definitely want to get on our radar, because you never know when we're going to have a client who's going to have a need, and you're going to be the person we need to tap. Both. So I just say both.
Okay, great. So my next question will be, unless somebody else has something to ask, when you read an article and you see people respond, like read the article, how can you connect to some, or how can you reach somebody that's actually read your article?
How can you see if somebody's read your article?
No. How can you connect with somebody? So let's say.
It's as simple as that. Like if you see that somebody has read your article, just click on their profile, open their profile, and if they're a second level or even a third level, literally just hit the connect button. It's as simple as that. And then just say, thanks for, I noticed that you read my article, would love to stay in touch, you know, and that's
it. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yep.
I think Kelly was mentioning this earlier. If I see that someone has looked at me, has searched or looked at my profile, should I reach out to that? Or is that weird?
It is weird. I'll tell you that. This is, thank you for the question. I get that one a lot. LinkedIn, you know, like every social media platform, they do what I call itch scratching. Okay. Ooh, who looked at me? Ooh, I want to see. This whole liking thing, right? It it is a little bit, and some people might call it creepy, whatever. If somebody pokes you, right? Somebody looks at you and you go follow up with them, that can make them feel a little uncomfortable, because if they looked at your profile and they didn't do anything with it, that could make them feel a little bit pressured that now you're following up with them when they didn't follow up with you. Because the fact of the matter is, if they looked at your profile and they wanted to reach out, they would reach out. And if they haven't done it yet, maybe they'll do it in the future. But yeah, I would just leave that one alone.
And that reminds me, I have mine set to like semi-private, I think. So if I look at someone, they don't know it's me. They just know it's someone from the Whartons.
Exactly. And just to let people know what you're talking about. So if you go into the me button, which is in the upper right-hand corner, by the way, I want to make sure that I'm sharing the proper screen here. Okay, I am good. If you go into the me button, and then you go into private, oops, get rid of this, sorry. And you go into privacy and settings. Okay, they keep changing this. And you go into account preferences.
Visibility.
It's visibility. I'm sorry, they keep changing it on me.
I think it's visibility.
Yeah, and it's the one that says, hold on, it is the one that says profile viewing options. It's right up here. So you click on this one. Now I am like you, I actually set mine to anonymous. Now that makes perfect sense for me in particular, because look, I am even right now, I'm doing a training and there's no reason why people would have to.
I'm in the middle. I do the middle one.
Yeah, and that's fine. Doing that one or doing anonymous is fine. The only time I would recommend that you turn it back on to the regular default, which is your name and all of that, is if you are doing an intentional search, okay? And this is funny, this is the reverse of the question that you actually just asked. If you're doing an intentional search, you've gone into the search profile, and again, I know we haven't done a full training on this, but you're searching for people in your network, you're searching for people in your tribe, your lane, employers, you're doing all this searching. And you actually you come up with people who you're wanting to connect with. It can actually be a good thing when they see who you are. Why? Because even if you haven't reached out and touched them, it prompts them sometimes to look at your profile. But they can't know to look at your profile unless you actually have this fully visible, right? So this is actually a very, very subtle way to build your visibility, where you say, okay, look, I am searching around. I've come across your profile. I wanted to let you know I haven't reached out yet, but now I've invited you basically back to go and look at mine. So that's a reason why you might want to turn it on when you're doing a proactive search. Otherwise,
so it's a strategic move.
It's a strategic move. That's exactly
Got it. I like that.
That's right. That's right. Yep. Always good to be strategic.
Shira, I have a question. This is Christine, and it's kind of a little bit about what you were touching upon, and keeping in mind this is all learning, but I may have done some creep factor. I went to an event, and it was with Career Network Ministry, which many of the folks know on this call, and I heard a recruiter speak on a panel, and I was partly interested in that company, which I had already been talking to a different person, not particularly that recruiter, but he invited everyone who attended the session, please connect up with me. So I did, left it there. 3 days later, maybe a week later, he reached out to me and said, hey, would you mail me your resume? So I said, or he said, can I have your resume? That's what it was. So I contacted back and I said, sure, be happy to. Would you prefer that I email it to you? Because he was not open networked. He didn't have his email there. Would you prefer I email it to you, or do you want me to upload it here to LinkedIn? He said, oh, please email it. That's going to be much easier, which I kind of knew that, sucking it in and moving it out. I was like, let's make it easy for the guy if he gives me his email. I did, and I wrote him a cover letter, and here's where I may have creeped too much. When I wrote the cover letter, I wrote what I see my strengths, and I said, I'm curious to know what position you might be considering me for, because he didn't really say. And I said, oh, and by the way, you may find I'm already in your company's applicant tracking because I know so-and-so, I know John, all right. So I kind of put that as my PS, and I felt like, oh, afterwards, I'm like, oh, was my cover letter
Oh, that's
fine.
Oh,
So
completely.
the fact that I asked him why he was considering me and he never got back to
It's
me.
okay.
So I was like, oh, you think
That's
it's okay?
No.
Okay.
Oh, you did everything right. You did everything right. Yeah, asking, it's a very legitimate question, really. I mean, if he's asking you for your resume, of course you should be saying, well, what do you have? So that nothing wrong with that at all. And number two, I like the fact that you actually we're doing full disclosure and saying, hey, I may already be in your ATS because I know so-and-so. That's an honest statement. That's an authentic statement. I think he will very much appreciate that you let him know in advance, because if you didn't, I mean, not that it would have been a bad thing if you didn't, but I think it would have maybe been surprising to him had you not shared it. So you did everything right, 100%. The only creepy thing is normally when I was mentioning earlier a few minutes ago, if you're trying, if somebody stalks you, right? You know, they look at you on LinkedIn and then you want to kind of go write them back. Not as much, but everything you did, Christine, just spot on.
And I can see when people have looked up my profile, it'll either say their name or they're, you know, anonymous. They can't see, or if I look at someone 10 times, it's not going to show that it's not going to show me the last 10 times.
Well, actually, so I'm not sure about all of that. I believe that it's once per day, I believe.
Okay.
That I'm not sure of the nuance of that, but I believe if you did every single day, you might come up every single day. But if you do it like 5 times in one day, it should only come up once.
Okay, good.
Okay, let's take one more question before we wrap up.
So is LinkedIn, is the fact that LinkedIn show you the people that have viewed your profile and hide some, saying that if you have the premium membership, you will see them. Is there any value to that?
Yeah, thanks for that. No, in a word, no. I do not believe that anybody should be paying for premium for that particular reason. Okay. Again, you're paying for the itch scratching factor, which is, I think, absolutely ridiculous. Like I said, if somebody looked at you and they want to connect with you, they will connect with you. The fact that they looked at you and that you happen to know that is not really of much consequence. Now, that said, there is one reason only, I believe, that anybody should consider premium. And here it is. And again, we have not done the training on this today, but here in the upper left-hand bar, right, with the search bar, if you are going to be very proactive and intentional in using this search bar to find people, right? Whether you're putting in, I don't know, Christine, I saw you're on your certification, you're a PMP, and you want to go find other PMP colleagues or whatever reason you're doing. And if you're going to do this frequently, at some point, if you do it, you have a lot of freedom to do it, and they'll give you some latitude. But at some point, there's a little box that's going to come up, and it's going to say something to the effect of, you have exceeded or you have reached your commercial limit on LinkedIn. You must now become a premium member. You're like, commercial limit, what are you talking about? What they're thinking is that you're either a salesperson or a recruiter, okay? And they're saying, we have given you the freemium thing, right? We've given you lots of rope. Now you got to pay up, and good for them. They have a business model. They got to make money at some point. They're giving us a lot of stuff for free. I have no problem with that. It's just that the only time you're going to want to actually take them up on that is if you know you're going to be doing a ton of searches. But do the searches until you max out, until you get that little box, and then yeah, you may want to consider. But for any other reason, the itch scratching stuff, I do not think it's worth the money.
So I should cancel my LinkedIn premium.
Well, if you're not doing this the searching like I'm talking about, then yeah, probably cancel it. Yeah. But hopefully you will start to do it. Again, I don't have time today to do a full training. In fact, maybe we can do that next time. I can do a full training on how to leverage.
How many searches are you talking about? Like 100?
Yeah, I don't actually know. I think Elise Barnes, who's also a LinkedIn trainer, I think she said that to me once. I can't remember, but they have an algorithm. I wish I knew how many pages that you. I thought she said it was something like maybe I think it was 10, maybe it was 100. Maybe. Well, anyway, I don't want to speak out of turn. If you do it enough, you're going to get the box. That's all I got to tell you. At some point, they will.
Well, I like the idea of canceling it, and then if I do get the box,
there you go, and then you can re-up. Yep.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys. So hopefully this was helpful in this few little minutes that we had together. I'm happy to do this periodically, to just kind of stick around and help you guys out. And if you have specific LinkedIn questions, feel free to, ping me, email me. Also, for what it's worth, on my website, I have a video, which is the full training. And let me pull that up for you guys. And if you go to this page of my website, and
Can you share your screen?
actually, I'm putting it in the chat.
Okay.
So on that page of my website, if you go down in sort of grayish letters, one of the videos there is called Using LinkedIn Like a Pro. And that is an 1.5-hour training I did actually at 40 plus early this year. It was literally my last live presentation before COVID. and that will give you some extra information. And by the way, when I did that, since the time I did that, LinkedIn has, as it always does, it continually changes. It has changed slightly since then, not significantly. So most everything there should be accurate. Is this the next time that, oh, yes. I'm sorry, I didn't mention. Yeah, we'll be off for Christmas and New Year's. So we'll see you guys again on January 8th. Okay. All right, everyone. Merry Christmas and happy holidays.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Thank you so very much
Thank
for
you.
your help and
Happy
insight.
holidays.
You're welcome.
Shira, this was the best gift you could have given us. Thank you for going through this.
Bless you. Bless you.
Thanks,
So
Sarah.
fun. Pay it forward. Pay it forward. Just share with your friends and invite them and share the tips.
Well,
All right.
Thank
Very
you.
merry.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Shira. Have
You're
a great
welcome.
holiday.
You too. Bye.